I'm filthy. I don't deserve love. She sobbed, but the human hugged her like she was everything asterisk. Touch me, and I'll break. The words were barely a whisper, but they cut through the silence like a blade. Commander Bryn Arlen froze where he stood, boots half sunk in the ash and rubble of what had once been an alien outpost. Smoke curled around broken steel and shattered glass. Burnt wiring sparked weakly in the background. The whole place smelled like ozone, scorched polymer, and something sharp like fear. And there, in the middle of it all, was her. She was curled into herself, arms wrapped tight around her legs, her forehead pressed to her knees. Her skin shimmered a soft silver blue, though it was broken in places, bruises blooming like crushed flowers, faint scars trailing along her ribs, and dried violet blood crusting her temple. She didn't look like a soldier. She didn't look like anything he'd seen in his 6 years surveying alien ruins. She looked fragile, but she was Orlan. Bryn had read the report's cold, hyperlogical species. No families, no touch. They reproduced in sterile labs and rarely lived outside communal data hubs. They didn't love, they didn't need. Yet this one was trembling. He crouched down slowly, careful not to startle her. His voice came out low, steady. You're hurt. She didn't lift her head, didn't speak, but he saw her flinch. I'm human, he added. Name's Bryn. I'm not here to harm you. Her fingers curled tighter. You shouldn't be near me, she murmured. I'm contaminated. I'm wrong. Bryn frowned. You're not wrong. You're alive. That got her attention. She raised her head, just barely. Her eyes were like liquid gold, shot through with tiny violet rings. She blinked at him like she wasn't sure if he was real. You'll regret touching me, she said. He chuckled softly. That's a risk I'm willing to take. He slipped off his jacket. It was thick, lined with thermal fabric. She watched as he draped it over her shoulders, her whole body tensed, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she whispered, because no one should be left in the dirt, he said. Not even an Orlan. She looked away. We don't feel. We're not supposed to. You're shaking, Bryn said. That's not nothing. The silence stretched between them, broken only by the faint hum of cooling vents and the distant pop of a broken power line shorting out. He noticed how thin she was. Her arms were bony, skin stretched too tight. She hadn't eaten in days, maybe longer. Bryn reached into his field pack and pulled out a protein ration. He held it out. You should eat? She didn't move. I'm not going to force you, he said gently, but you'll need strength if we're getting out of here. You're helping me escape. I'm helping someone who needs help, he replied. She hesitated, then reached out slowly, shaking fingers brushing against his as she took the ration bar. Her hand was small, cool, but alive. That tiny touch made something stir inside him. My name is Kelly, she said quietly. Bryn smiled. Kelly, that's a good name. She looked up again, studying his face like she was trying to find something, maybe a lie, maybe a threat. But all she found was tired kindness. Her voice cracked as she said, I wasn't made for this. For what? He asked. This contact warmth. Being ... seen, he didn't look away. Maybe you weren't made for it, but you're surviving it. Kelly stared at the ration bar like she didn't know what to do with it. Then, slowly, she took a bite. She didn't cry. She didn't collapse into his arms, but she leaned just slightly into his jacket, just enough that he felt the shift of weight. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just stayed there. And for the first time in what felt like forever, so did she. Bryn didn't sleep that night. He sat beside her in the wreckage, legs stiff, pulse steady, jacket draped over her fragile shoulders. The stars outside the ruined dome blinked faintly through the smoke. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was the kind that followed screaming. Kelly had stopped shaking hours ago, but she hadn't said much since. She sat curled beside him, eyes wide open, fingers still gripping the half-eaten ration bar like it was the only thing anchoring her to the world. Bryn wasn't sure what he was doing. He'd seen combat, he'd pulled bodies from collapsed bunkers, but nothing about this felt like a rescue. It felt ... fragile, like one wrong word would send her collapsing back into herself. You're going to freeze if we stay here much longer, he said finally. Kelly didn't respond. He tried again. There's an outpost, 6 clicks east, abandoned, but the heat systems still work. This time, she blinked. a slow, heavy motion. "You're not taking me in?" "To who?" Bren asked. "Fleet Command. They dissect you, the Orlin. You think they want you back like this?" She didn't answer, but her jaw tightened. Bren stood up and offered his hand. "Come on, you can walk, right?" She looked at his hand like it was a weapon. Then slowly, she reached out. Her palm landed in his, and again he felt that strange static warmth, like her skin was waking up. They moved slowly. She leaned on him after just a dozen steps, her strength already fading. He didn't mind. He adjusted his pace, let her lean. Around them, the ruined outpost whispered its slow death-collapsed beams groaned. A breeze hissed through cracked hull plating, and somewhere far behind, something metallic crumbled with a crash. "You don't have to help me," Kelly said, her voice dry and brittle. "I'm not doing this because I have to," he replied. She was quiet for a long time, but just before they reached the ridge overlooking the outpost's remains, she muttered, "That's what scares me." The shelter was little more than a prefab emergency shack, half buried in sand and time. Bren pried the door open and ducked inside, Kelly close behind. The air stank of dust and old wiring, but the heat kicked on after 2 resets and a hard bang to the main panel. Kelly collapsed onto the cot like her bones had given out. Bren rummaged through the storage lockers, found a first aid kit, a few rations, and a jug of potable water, enough to last them a day. Maybe 2, long enough to figure things out. He brought her water first. She didn't thank him, she just drank. Slow, careful sips, like it might vanish. Then he knelt in front of her, unzipped the medkit, and paused. "Your ribs," he said, "they look wrong." "I healed differently," she said flatly. "You still bleed," he countered. She looked at him, eyes flicking over his face. Humans are very ... tactile, always touching. "Why?" he smiled faintly. "Because sometimes words don't do enough." She looked down at her hands. "We never needed that, my kind. We communicate through resonance fields, shared frequencies. Touch was irrelevant." Bren's voice softened. "Then why are you here, Kelly, in this state? Why does your skin light up when I hold you?" Her breath hitched, barely audible. "I don't know." Bren reached forward, gently lifting the corner of his jacket where it lay on her arm. Her skin pulsed softly beneath, faint bands of light swirling under the surface, like ocean currents. He didn't touch her, just looked. "I think you were meant for more than they allowed," he said. Kelly's lips parted, like she might argue, but instead, she asked, "Are all humans this confusing?" He chuckled. "Probably, but I've been told I'm especially irritating." Her mouth twitched, almost a smile. He stood. "You sleep. I'll keep watch. Tomorrow, we figure out the next step." Kelly nodded once, then lay down on the cot, curling her knees to her chest. She didn't say goodnight, but she didn't flinch when he adjusted the blanket around her shoulders either, and when she finally slept, it was without trembling. The next morning arrived, not with sunlight, but with the low mechanical groan of the shack's recycler struggling. To reheat stale air, Bren was already up, sitting on an overturned crate, watching Kelly breathe. She hadn't stirred once during the night. Her silver blue skin had lost that pale, bruised undertone. Her breathing was slower now. Calmer. She was still alien, still delicate, but no longer looked like she might vanish at any second. Bren didn't dare disturb her. Not yet. He busied himself heating a ration tin over a portable coil. The synthetic smell of protein broth filled the cramped space. Not pleasant, not terrible, but warm. When Kelly finally opened her eyes, she blinked like the air was new. "Didn't think I'd wake up," she whispered. Bren glanced over. "You did more than that. You snored." Her eyes widened in alarm, and he couldn't help but laugh. "I'm joking," he said. "Mostly." She sat up slowly, rubbing her eyes with the back of her hand. "Your humor is ... unnerving. You'll get used to it." He passed her a steaming cup, "Or you'll stab me in my sleep. Either way, I get a reaction." Kelly took the cup carefully, holding it like it might bite. She sipped, then paused. "It's not bad." "Highest praise I've received this month," Bren said. She studied the cot's edge for a long moment. "Why are you being kind to me?" He looked at her, long and quiet. "Because someone should be." "That's not a reason," she replied. "It is to me." Silence settled between them again, but this time it was comfortable. Not tense, After breakfast, Bryn activated his scanner and checked her vitals, subtly, gently. She didn't stop him this time. Her heart rate was still fast but steady, skin temperature rising toward normal. But there was something else, something odd in the readings. "Your body's adapting," he said, "faster than it should." She looked down at herself, brow furrowed. "I feel ... different. Like I'm not just healing, I'm changing." Bryn hesitated. "I noticed." She looked up sharply. "What do you mean you glow?" Kelly blinked. "That's not supposed to happen?" "Well, it is now, especially when I'm near you." Her face darkened not with embarrassment, but fear. "That means something's wrong. My nervous system might be misfiring. Or worse, ... Or, Bryn interrupted, "You're just responding to contact, like any sentient being would." "I was never designed to respond." "Maybe that's the problem," he said. "Maybe you weren't supposed to be designed at all." She opened her mouth to argue, but nothing came out. Later, she stood barefoot by the cracked view window, watching the wind kick up dust outside. Her posture was straighter now, less curled in on herself. "Do humans always live like this?" she asked. "Cold shelters, loud machines, ration food?" Bryn grinned. "Only when we're lucky. Otherwise, it's space worms and paperwork." Kelly tilted her head. "You find humor in discomfort. It's a coping mechanism," he said, "Bays, and a survival trait. Don't underestimate it." She was quiet a moment, then murmured, "I never learned to laugh. You will." She turned toward him, her eyes bright with something he couldn't quite name. "And if I do, what then?" He crossed the room, slowly, carefully. "Then, I'll be here to hear it." She stared up at him. There was still fear in her years of conditioning. Couldn't just vanish, but there was also something new. Curiosity, hope. She reached out, fingertips grazing his chest, her voice barely a whisper. "Why do you feel so ... solid?" Bryn raised an eyebrow. "Muscle, mostly, and an oversized heart, apparently." Her fingers lingered, hesitant. "You're warm." "So are you," he said gently, and she was. For the first time, her touch didn't tremble. That night, she didn't ask to sleep on the cot. She just sat beside him as he adjusted the blankets, her shoulder brushing his. She didn't flinch, and when he leaned back, she leaned to ... quiet, close, not out of fear, but out of choice. Bryn wasn't sure when he'd stopped seeing Kelly as fragile. Maybe it was the way she stood at dawn, barefoot in the frost-laced doorway, unflinching. Or how she studied the horizon like it might give her answers, instead of more silence. She was still learning what it meant to be. Not as a function, not as a prototype, but as a person. And Bringruff, ex-military, grizzled in all the ways that counted, was starting to realize he wasn't just keeping her alive, he was falling for her. It started small. She laughed. Just once, a real shocked laugh that startled even her. Mess off as grilled fusion. She stared, sniffed it, and said flatly, "This smells like surrender." He cracked up, and when she saw him laughing, really laughing, she did talkward and sharp and short, like her body didn't know how to process it, but she did it. And after, she touched her lips like they were a strange new instrument. That night, the wind outside howled through the cracks in the shelter's walls, but inside it was quiet. Warm.ca, Eli sat across from him, knees pulled up, wearing one of his spare shirts. It hung loose on her frame, sleeves too long, collar slipping off one shoulder. Her silvery skin caught the firelight in ways that made Bryn's mouth dry. She caught him staring, didn't look away. "Your pupils dilate when you look at me like that," she said, voice low. "You keeping notes?" "Observation is part of my core function," she replied. He leaned forward slightly. "Is attraction part of it too?" Kelly didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached across the narrow space and pressed her hand to his chest. Flat, warm. Her fingers trembled just once, then steadied. "I shouldn't want this," she said softly. "But my body, it's not listening anymore." He swallowed hard. "I'm not going to push you into anything." "I know," she whispered. "That's why I trust you to let me." Something shifted then. Kelly moved closer, slow, deliberate, like every inch mattered. Her knees touched his. Her hand slid to the curve of his jaw. Her eyes searched his face with quiet intensity. "Everything in me is changing," she murmured. My sensory networks are adapting, my temperature regulation, my hormone balance, even the subdermal tissues are rewiring. It's all reacting to you. Bren blinked. I've had that effect before, he said, deadpan. She smiled, soft, almost embarrassed. It's not just chemical, it's voluntary. I want this, not because I'm programmed for it, but because I'm choosing it. He cupped the back of her neck gently, stroking her glowing skin. You sure? Kelly nodded. I don't want to observe anymore. She leaned in, lips brushing his like a secret, and he kissed her back, slow, reverent. No rush, no hunger, just heat and permission and the awe of something new being born. Her body responded in ways that startled even her. Her skin flushed deeper, blue with waves of faint golden light under the surface, like liquid starlight pulsing just beneath. Is this normal? She asked breathlessly as her fingertips explored the shape of his chest. His arms, the ridges of muscle she'd once studied clinically. Bren's grin was lazy. Wicked? For you, no idea. For me, best science experiment I've ever participated in. She rolled her eyes, but then gasped when he slid his hands to her hips. I feel ... full. Like everything in me is too much, she whispered. He lowered his forehead to hers, their breath mingling. That's called being wanted, Kelly. They undressed slowly, not from urgency but reverence. Each layer was a wall peeled back, each kiss a question answered. And when they finally lay together, skin to skin, there was no fear, only light. Her body trembled not from confusion, but release. Her systems were rewriting themselves, shaping around a new kind of touch. A human. Kind, his kind, she cried, just a little. But it wasn't sadness, it was the ache of finally being real. And when they curled into each other after tangled in blankets and soft breath, Kelly whispered into his chest, if this is what they were afraid of, they were right to be. Bren kissed the top of her head and held her tighter. Kelly didn't wake with fear anymore. That alone felt like a miracle. The next morning, she lay draped across Bren's chest, one arm slung lazily over his waist, her cheek pressed to the warmth of his bare skin. She was still glowing faintly just. Beneath the surface, soft pulses of gold rippling through her blue-tinted skin in time with her slow, steady breath. Bren lay still, watching the patterns, fingers tracing light circles along the curve of her back. He couldn't stop touching her, not out of lust, but because it still amazed him that she let him that she wanted him to. She stirred, eyelids fluttering. Her voice came out rough, sleepy. Are you staring again? He smirked. Just checking for any new evolutionary upgrades. Kelly stretched like a cat, the blanket sliding off her shoulder. Sorry, no extra limbs yet. Bren sat up on one elbow, brushing a strand of red hair from her face. You slept through the entire night, you know that? She blinked slowly. I did. Didn't even twitch. He kissed her temple. Either you're getting used to me, or you finally feel safe. Kelly looked at him for a long time. I don't think I've ever felt safe before. He didn't say anything. He just pulled her close again. She didn't resist. The rest of the day was quiet, almost normal. Kelly wore one of Bren's shirts, tied at the waist to fit better. She cooked breakfast or tried to. The results were edible, barely. He told her it was charmingly inedible. She threw a spoon at him later. She helped him recalibrate the wind filters on the shack's roof, their hands brushing constantly as they worked in sync. At one point, she stopped mid-task, her fingers lightly touching his forearm. My reflexes are different, she said. Faster, more precise. Bren raised a brow. That from being with me, likely, or your cooking, is a low-level stimulant. He laughed, and for once, she didn't flinch at the sound. But as evening fell, the peace began to shift. Kelly stood at the edge of the ridge near the shack, eyes locked on the horizon. The sky was stained a deep crimson orange, clouds curling like smoke from a dying fire. I had a transmission dream, she said. Bren looked up from where he sat by the heater. What does that mean? Sometimes, our kind receives data while unconscious. Updates, messages. She wrapped her arms around herself. They know I'm alive. Bren's jaw clenched. Are they coming? I don't know. She turned to him, her face unreadable. If they do, ... they'll want to extract me. Reclaim the unit? Not happening, you don't understand. No, he said firmly, crossing the room to her. You don't. I don't care if they're sending a retrieval fleet or a damn planet cracker. I'm not giving you up. Kelly stared at him. There was no fear in her eyes now. Only something quieter, something deeper. I believe you, she whispered. She stepped forward and rested her forehead against his chest. But I also believe they'll try anyway. Then we prepare, he said. We leave this shack, find a deeper shelter, something off-grid. I've got old recon maps, places the Union forgot existed. You'd give all that up, she said softly. For me? He looked down at her, his hand cupping her cheek. I already did. That night, they packed quickly rations, medkits, the old plasma rifle he'd sworn never to use again. Kelly moved with quiet efficiency, faster than she had just days before. Her coordination was sharper, her skin more vibrant. She was changing. Fast, you know, Bren said as they stepped into the wind. If you keep evolving at this pace, you might actually surpass us humans one day. She glanced at him sideways. You're not worried, he smirked. Nah, we'll always have bigger egos. And bigger, she paused, eyes flicking down, a teasing smile tugging at her lips. Organs Bren nearly tripped. Oh now, you get humor? Kelly only grinned and walked ahead. She wasn't broken anymore, she wasn't hiding, and whatever came next. Bren knew this. She wasn't his responsibility. She was his partner, and together they were going to make the stars remember her name. Asterisk, they found the cave system 2 days later. It was an old mining outpost, long since abandoned just as Bren remembered from the recon maps. The entrance was half collapsed, but the underground shelters were intact, dry, shielded, hidden, no surveillance, no signal bleed. Perfect. Kelly stepped inside the dim chamber and exhaled. This place smells like iron and regret. Bren chuckled. Good, that means no one else wants to live here. She walked to the center of the chamber, brushing her fingers across the rough stone. He's quiet. He set the supplies down near a rusted generator. That's what off-grid feels like. Kelly looked around, her skin faintly glowing again beneath the low light. I like it. They settled in quickly. Basic heat, filtered water, and enough power cells to last week's Bren knew how to make bad places livable. Kelly made them feel like home. For a few days, they fell into a rhythm. Reinforced the outer walls, turned one corner into a sleeping area, with a soft mat and every spare blanket they had. At night, they lay wrapped together under layers of fabric and warmth, her head against his chest, his hand tracing lazy circles. Along her back, she was more relaxed now. Still sharp, still alert, but no longer scanning every shadow like it held punishment. Her body continued to adapt. Her reactions were faster, more human, but there was something deeper, something interwoven between their biology now. Started dreaming, not data feeds, not programmed visions, but dreams, of oceans, of children, of Bren. And then, on the 5th night, everything changed. Bren was outside the cave mouth, checking their perimeter. The wind was low, the stars sharp, and bright overhead. He liked nights like this, quiet, cold, full of possibility, until he saw the blinking red dot on his wrist tracker, unregistered aerial pulse. Low orbit, scanning pattern consistent with Orlan recovery vessels. They'd found her. He sprinted. Back inside, Kelly was sitting by the fire, sipping nutrient broth like she didn't have a care in the world. She looked up and saw his face. They're here, aren't they? She asked softly. Bren nodded. One ship, orbiting, could be a scout or the first of a full crew. Kelly stood. She didn't panic. She didn't even blink. She just straightened her back, set down the cup, and asked, "Do we run again?" Bren hesitated. "We might not have time. They could launch a drone any minute." She stepped closer. "Then we don't run." "What are you saying?" "I'm not prey," she said. "Not anymore." He grabbed her shoulders gently. "Kelly, I'm not letting them take you. I'm not letting them try," she said. "I'm not that girl in the mud anymore, Bren." She pulled away from him, moved to the console, and activated a deep scan pulse. Her fingers moved fast, faster than human. "They won't detect me," she said, voice calm. "Not now. My signal signature changed. You changed it." Bren blinked. "Wait, how do you know that?" She turned to him slowly. "Because I'm not just adapting anymore. I'm merging. Merging." She stepped closer, placing his hand over her abdomen. He didn't feel anything at first, and then there it was, a faint flutter, a spark. alive. Double quotes, you single quotes, re. His throat caught. Kelly, are you saying, yes, she said. Her eyes shimmered with tears. I'm pregnant. He stared at her, speechless. I didn't know it was possible, she whispered. But my biology is changing too fast for coincidence. The glow, the dreams, the warmth. It's not just emotional, it's genetic. Bryn took a slow, shaky breath. A child, half human, half forlorn, something, new. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight, his lips brushing her hair. Then we don't just protect you now, we protect them too. She nodded against his chest. This isn't just survival anymore. It's legacy, Bryn said. Kelly pulled back just enough to look him in the eyes. They're not ready for what we've become. He smiled. Then let's make sure they never see it coming. Outside, the Orlin ship continued its silent orbit. Inside, Kelly and Bryn stood at the edge of something ancient and brand new. Not war, not escape, but a beginning. Asterisk. The stars outside the cave pulsed like old secrets and blinking, unknowable inside. Kelly stood beside Bryn, her hand resting over the soft curve of her belly. It wasn't large, yet barely a swell beneath her shirt, but it was real, undeniable. A heartbeat, a future, a war they hadn't planned to win, but somehow already had. The Orlin ship remained in orbit for 3 more days. Scanning, waiting, watching, but they never came closer. No drones landed. No signals broke through. Kelly was invisible to them now. Her biosignature no longer registered as one of their own. She'd changed too much, or maybe, finally enough. They're leaving, Bryn said, watching the long-range monitor flicker to blue. Course redirect. No heat signatures trailing. They didn't find you. Kelly let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. They weren't looking for me, she said softly. They were looking for what I used to be. Bryn crossed the room and wrapped his arms around her from behind, hands resting over hers. Her skin still shimmered faintly beneath his touch, golden waves flickering under ocean blue. You're not a runaway, he murmured into her ear. You're a revolution in slow motion. Kelly tilted her head back against his chest. Do you think they'll try again? Eventually, he said, but by then we'll be long gone, somewhere green, somewhere quiet, she smiled. With a door that creaks and flowers that don't obey symmetry. And a bed that isn't just rock and folded blankets, he added, one with space for ... 3. Her smile faded, but only because her throat tightened. I used to think I'd die before I ever touched someone, she said. Now I'm growing someone inside me. Not just someone, Bryn said, turning her gently in his arms, ours. She reached up, brushing her fingers along the rough stubble of his jaw. I never understood what humans meant by love. I thought it was just neural dependency, attachment chemistry. And now, she leaned, in forehead to his. Now it's the only thing that makes sense. They left the cave 2 days later, traveled light, moved quiet, followed the unregistered trail routes Bryn remembered from his old recon days. He knew the stars better than he knew most people, knew how to vanish. And this time, he wasn't running from anything. He was carrying everything. Kelly's body continued to evolve. She was stronger now, faster. Her reflexes were sharper than any soldier's, but it was her laugh that had changed the most. It came easily now, even when she tripped over Bryn's awkward attempts at cooking, even when he insisted their child would inherit his sarcasm, even when they found the lush, overgrown little planet on the untouched, unmonitored and made it their home. They built a life in the quiet, a small cabin, a garden Kelly learned to tend with both wonder and mild frustration. How does this thing grow sideways? She'd grumble, while Bryn smirked like he trained the tomato vines personally. She braided flowers into her hair. He carved wooden stars to hang above the cradle, and one evening, beneath a violet dusk sky, she gave birth. No machines, no sterile lights, just him, holding her hand, whispering soft encouragement. Swearing quietly when she nearly crushed his fingers in labor, their child blue-skinned, gold-eyed, with a shock of dark red hair let out a soft, hiccuping wail. Kelly cried, Bryn did. 2 later, as they lay in the quiet, their baby asleep between them. Kelly turned her head and whispered, Do you still think I was meant to be alone? Bren reached over and brushed a single tear from her cheek. "No," he said, "you were meant to rewrite the universe." And she had, not with violence, not with power, but with touch, with choice, with love. They slept beneath the stars that night, not because they were hiding, but because they finally didn't have to. And above them, the galaxy kept turning, unaware that somewhere on a forgotten the world, a human and an alien had changed everything together forever.